Alright guys, it's Benny2595, and in this video what I thought I'd bring you is like a synopsis or a movie review of sorts of the film I went to see earlier in the week, which was Prometheus. And it's directed by Ridley Scott, who is a fantastic director. He's directed two amazing films, two films which are in my list of like favourite films of all time, which are namely Alien and Blade Runner. So for sci-fi fans, which I am on the sly, it's pretty much a must to go and see it. And I watched the trailer and I was pretty impressed from that. So me and a group of friends went to see it early in the week, Manchester IMAX Cinema, and well, I thought I'd bring you a bit of a commentary on it. So I hope you enjoy it. I've got a lot to say in this commentary, as you can imagine. The film is, well, I'll do my best. So I'm not going to talk about the gameplay. You can watch it for yourselves. It's nothing much. It's just a regular game that I had saved on my hard drive with me and Krakoon. Do pretty decent. So yeah, sit back and hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Now, the film was originally proposed as a prequel to Alien, but Ridley Scott decided to turn it into an original film, and though the movie takes place in the same universe as Alien and has numerous references to it, Scott has said that he's intended it as an original movie, not as a direct prequel to it. Personally, I think there's going to be another film which will fill in a few holes which are clearly, you know, in this film. There's a lot of areas in this film which are like, what the fuck, what's that, need explanation. But I'll sort of discuss that more at the end of the review section, you could say, of this commentary. And from what I researched, the director Ridley Scott named the film Prometheus because the name aptly fits the film's theme, basically, which is that of story of creation, the gods, and the man who stood against them. And what's more, in Greek mythology, the Titan Prometheus was a servant of God who stole and gave to mankind the gift of fire, which is an immeasurable benefit that changed the human race forever, and for better and for worse, you could argue. So, with that being said, I think what I'll do in the next portion of the video is explain the plot. So, for those of you that haven't seen the film and don't want me to ruin your experience, then the next chunk of this video will contain spoilers. So you've been warned. You've been warned. Right then. So the film starts with a spacecraft of an advanced humanoid alien arriving on Earth millions of years ago in the past, and this humanoid alien is clearly roided up to fuck, and he drinks this dark, well, I say he, I don't know what it is, asexual, I don't know what it is, whatever it is, this humanoid alien drinks a dark liquid which causes its body to disintegrate and fall into a waterfall, which it is stood on top of, presumably seeding Earth with its DNA. This could be like the origin of us humans, you could say. And the movie then takes us to Scotland. I believe it's 2089, and it's at this moment in which the archaeologist couple Elizabeth Shaw, who's played by Noomi Rapace, I don't know if I pronounced that name correctly, but she's the main character in the film, and her boyfriend Charlie Holloway, who's played by Logan Marshall Green, and they find a star map among the remnants of what at the time they believed to be like several unconnected ancient cultures. And both Shaw and Holloway interpret this discovery as an invitation from humanity's forerunners, who they call the engineers, which are basically the humanoid alien creatures like the dude who topped himself at the start of the film. So, naturally, of course, they receive backing from the random guy. He's an old fossil of a man called Peter Weyland, who he's like the founder of Weyland Corporation that funded the creation of a scientific deep space research vessel called the USS Prometheus to follow up on the map to this distant moon of, I think it's LV-223, which is several light years from Earth. And the ship's crew travel in, I think it's called stasis is the term for it. They travel in stasis asleep in the pod-like thingamabobs at light speed, while an android called David, who is played by the amazing Michael Fassbender, stays awake to pilot and monitor the voyage. And throughout this time in the film, you see David entertaining himself, if you could even call it that, because let's face it, he's an android. Does he feel emotion? Does he whatever? It's a separate topic altogether. By playing basketball whilst riding a bike at the same time, which is hardly impressive. I feel I can do that, personally. Bleaching his hair to look like Peter O'Toole from the film Lawrence of Arabia, as well as trying to like imitate his mannerisms. Swatting up on, I believe it's Holloway's thesis, and even having a sneaky perv on the crew members' dreams whilst they sleep. But let's face it, wouldn't we all? I know I would. Naked. Oh shit, I said that out loud. Anyway, moving on. After being awakened from hibernation, the crew are informed of the mission to find the ancient aliens, namely these engineers, who they posit to be the original humans. And I must point out that by now the audience are led to believe that this Peter Weyland guy is long dead, because the crew watch a hologram message from him in which he clearly states that by the time they are seeing this, they'll Yeah, he was basically going to be worm food, so... But however, the mission director, Meredith Vickers, who is played by the tasty Charlize Theron, I think I've pronounced that name right. Sorry if I haven't. I know a lot of people are anal about shit like that, so apologies, I'm just saying. Anyway, this tasty lady orders them to avoid any direct contact and return if engineers are found on the planet. And the Prometheus lands near an alien structure, resembling a large temple-like pyramid, and the team, including Shaw, Holloway and David, explore it, while Vickers and Captain Janek, who's played by Idris Elba, remain on board the ship and monitor their progress. And whilst inside the structure, the team finds several stone-like cylinders, a monolithic statue of a humanoid head, because that's an everyday occurrence, and the corpse of a giant alien thought to be one of the engineers. Other bodies are later found, and the species is presumed to be extinct. And David secretly returns one of many of these like ampules. I think that's a better way of saying it than stone-like cylinders. While the remaining ampules begin jizzing dark, seeming-like fluid, it seems. Meanwhile, a rapidly approaching storm forces the crew to return to the ship, leaving 2 crew members, Milburn, played by Raph Spall, and Fifield, played by Sean Harris, stranded in the pyramid structure. I mean, sorry, how convenient and totally unpredictable is that? And in the ship, Shaw and the medic Ford, played by Katie Dickey, I think it is. Dickey, sorry, I'm really childish. Analyse the engineer's head and discover that the DNA matches that of the humans, whilst David investigates the ampule and discovers for himself that the dark spunk, which he intentionally infects Holloway with by placing a drop onto his finger, which he then dips into Holloway's drink. Later we see a bit of blue as Holloway infects Shaw when they have sex, and didn't see that one coming. Anyone get that joke coming? Jizz? He jizzed? Never mind. Meanwhile, back inside the structure, Fifield and Milburn are attacked by some sort of snake-like baby alien offspring creatures for foolishly letting the curiosity get the better of themselves, and so it comes as no surprise when both are killed. Don't fuck around with those sort of things. You know what I mean? You see shit like that, you run. I'm just saying. Anyway, Milburn, from what I remember, gets deep-throated by the snake thing, while Fifield gets the corrosive blood or yellow fluid from the snake thing sprayed onto his helmet, which melts it, consequently exposing him to the dark liquid leaking from the ampules. I mean, it's predictable. It's predictable. The crew returns to the structure and find Milburn's corpse, while David discovers a room containing an engineer in stasis and a star map highlighting Earth. Holloway's infection at this point is rapidly sort of ravaging his body, and he's has to be rushed back to the ship. But Vickers, baby, she refuses to let him on board, and so she burns him to death with a flamethrower at his own request. And that's like the sad part of the film, which isn't really that sad because, again, I'll discuss in the review section. You don't develop an attachment to these characters. But again, I'll discuss that in a minute. Shaw undergoes a medical scan which reveals that, despite being sterile, she is pregnant, and though David suggests she ought to return to Earth in stasis, she escapes and uses an automated surgery table to perform a cesarean section procedure to cut out the cephalopod-like creature from her abdomen. How convenient. But it's around this time that we discover that the good old Mr. Wayland has in fact been in stasis aboard the ship all along, and that he explains to Shaw that he intends to ask the engineers personally to help him avoid his impending death. Which is another part in the film where you think, like, what the fuck? But again, I'll discuss in a minute. Fifield at this point, now mutated, attacks the hangar bay of the ship and kills several crew members before being killed himself. And it's around this point that Janek theorises that the planet was used as a sort of engineer military base until they lost control of the biological weapons, namely these like ampules of, I don't know, which contain these alien things. The remaining crew return to the structure and awaken the engineer, who is occupying what is discovered to be a spaceship. And David speaks to this engineer person, who kindly responds by decapitating him and killing poor old Wayland and Ford. And Shaw, that moment is quite funny because, again, his mannerisms are pretty funny, I'm just saying. Shaw escapes the alien ship as it is activated by the engineer, but the still active David, or David's head should I say, reveals it's going to go and release the ampules on Earth. So Vickers orders Janet to return to Earth, but Shaw convinces him to stop the engineer ship, which he crashes into whilst Vickers flees in an escape pod. And the disabled engineer ship crashes onto the planet, killing Vickers in what can only be described as a pathetic death. again, I shall discuss in a minute. Shaw goes to the escape pod to retrieve supplies and finds her alien offspring has grown to a gigantic size, but the engineer who survived the crash enters the escape pod and attacks Shaw, but Shaw manages to release the tentacled creature which attacks the engineer by thrusting a tentacle down its throat. A lot of deep throwing in this film, I must say. It's an alien theme, I think. It's an alien theme. Bit of a reflection of Ridley Scott as a person. Some fetish going on there, I'm just saying. And Shaw then recovers David's remains from the ship, and together they activate another engineer ship, which David can pilot. And Shaw and the remains of android David then take off to travel to the engineer's homeland in an attempt to understand why they created humanity and why they attempted to destroy it. And in the final scene, in the Prometheus escape pod, a quintessential sort of Ridley Scott alien creature with jet black skin and an elongated skull bursts out of the dying engineer's chest. The end. So, what did I think? Well, first off, this old biddy, this Mr. Whalen guy, you can tell it's played by a man who is of middle age, or maybe younger. And I know it sounds daft, and you're probably thinking, what am I getting at, but I'll try and explain, right? He doesn't play a convincing old person, if that makes any sense. The makeup on this guy is just not... It's just not good enough, like... And whenever this is how I see films and shit like this. When you go to the cinema, or you just watch a film... You want that film to be so good that you can imagine yourself in that environment, and in the film, you're reenacting what's happening as the film goes on. And every time that fucking old guy came on the screen, I kept thinking, yep, shit makeup, shit makeup, shit makeup. You can tell around the eyes, it's shit. And it's just... I mean, I'm awful when it comes to little, petty things like that, but it just ruins my experience of films. And it's the same with, like, continuity errors. I can't remember if there's any continuity. I seem to recall reading that there's something to do with a vodka bottle which is stood up on a piano or something, and it's when the ship crashes, it's still there or something like that. And it's just little things like that which fucking irk me. And it's just, just little things, just get them right. You know what I mean? I'm just, when it comes to little things like that, I'm fucking awful at shit like that. So yeah, the old biddy's makeup was shit. Next, weapons, flamethrowers, really? I mean, what the fuck? It's so far into the future and you're still using a flamethrower. I want to see a plasma gun. Fuck it, I want to see a BFG 9000 for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? It's like flamethrowers. Get real. Oh my god, right. When the engineer ship kills Vickers. Poor Vickers, my poor darling Vickers. Run to the fucking side, right? I'll try and explain it. When the ship, it gets hit by the captain Janek. He hits it, it falls, ends up landing on its side. It's like a donut shape. That's the best way of thinking it. Donut shape, and it's rolling. It's rolling. Quite comical. It rolls. Shaw and Vickers are running in the track where it's fucking rolling. Right, imagine it now. Think to yourselves now. If something like that is rolling at you, where the fuck do you go? You know what I mean? To the side. It's a fucking desert-style planet. You know what I mean? It's abandoned. There's all this room, and they're still running in a straight line when this fucking massive donut is rolling at them. So, Shaw... I can't remember what Shaw does. I think Shaw hides, luckily gets, under a rock and he doesn't crush her or something. But Vickers, fucking, you're gonna get squashed, you daft cow. You know what I mean? I remember saying to my mate when we were watching the film, I was like, just run to the fucking side. It's not hard, just run to the fucking side. Step to the side, done. Side shuffle, done. Yeah, I mean, I've read a few reviews and they said that the script was poor and things like that, but, I mean, as a film, I think there's a lot of moments in it where you tend to feel lost, and given the attention span of a lot of people and just intelligence of a lot of people, which I got the impression that we're watching the film, we're just like, wah. And it's like, nowadays in today's society, you need to be spoon-fed. It needed a fucking narrator for that. It's one of those. I mean, I understood what was going on personally, and I know my friends did, but a lot of people coming out of the cinema, I had to just tell on the face they didn't have a fucking clue what was going on. But I do think that intentionally there was a lot of things left out which could, lead on to another film following this one. I think it should do, personally. I really do think it should do, because if anything, it was a bit too much of a gamble on a lot of the things, like some of the characters' motives, like David, for instance. You know, there's a lot of things which are left unanswered, and like I say, I think there'll be a follow-up from this film, and if there is, I'll do it, and I'll do a review on it. But I mean, in terms of characters themselves, as I sort of said earlier in this commentary, you don't develop a close attachment to the character. So when shit happens, like when Holloway dies, it's like, oh, he's dead. You know what I mean? It's like you don't have that sort of interaction, that relationship, which other films sort of provide you with. So you think, oh, he's dead. Oh no, poor Shaw. But when he dies, it's like, oh, well, looks like she's going to be using a dildo for the rest of the journey. You know what I mean? It's like, well, fuck it. And there was one last thing that I wanted to talk about as well, which seems to have escaped me. One like, oh, that's it, right? Yeah, this is it. No, I've got a good attention span. I'm just saying, I'm not. I've got a good attention span, but I've also got a worrying libido. I'm just saying, a worrying libido. And there's a moment in the film when Vickers and Janek are having a bit of a talk, and Janek is feeling a bit horny, and he basically asks Vickers, like, does he fancy shag? And Vickers is like dead professional, dead stone face, and I was actually thinking maybe she's a robot as well. And Janet actually says, "Are you a robot?" After Vickers sort of denies this shag request, and Vickers, in the sexiest way, just looks at him and basically says, 10 minutes, my room. And at that moment, I just, oh my god, yeah. And from then on, all I could think about was that. And it's like, surely that is not a good reflect. I mean, you might be thinking, well, it's me. But I disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly. That, if that sticks with you for the rest of the film, which it did with me, I'm going to be honest, it did with me. How forceful is the actual plot, like the storyline? You know what I mean? It's like, even now, I'm thinking of it now. I'm thinking of it clearly, vividly, right now. Vickers coming into my red room as I'm doing this commentary, and I'm like, yo, Vickers, what up? And she's like, not much. I'm like, yeah, fancy shag? And she's like, no, I'm professional. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh. And then I'm like, oh, well, you stubborn bitch. She's like, oh, really? There's a bit of a silence. The shed, 5 minutes. I don't know why. I was thinking of a place to do it. Why? The shed? I mean, do people actually have sex in the... I don't know. Anyway, I've gone way over on this commentary. Oh, the shed. The shed. Bottom of the garden. Anyway, right. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Should you watch the film? I would recommend it. I would. Next films that I'm looking forward to going to see are Loophole. And I'm really going over on this video. The attention span of YouTube viewers is pretty limited, so no doubt no one will be watching this part of the video. If you are, thumbs up. Thank you. Appreciate it. Loyal fans. But yeah, Batman, obviously, I love Batman. Massive comic book fanboy on the sly. And Loophole, which is got Bruce Willis in it, and it's like a time travel film, and it's definitely going to incorporate the grandfather paradox into that, so I can't wait to watch that and to also do a review of that. I'm thinking of turning this into like a series as well. I've been wanting to do it for a while, so just let me know what you thought of this video, guys, and yeah, have a good day. Peace. Right, well, I need to go and masturbate.